In a remote and isolated underwater facility located far out in the ocean, Doctors Susan McAllister and Jim Whitlock are conducting groundbreaking research on mako sharks. Their controversial goal is to develop a treatment that could potentially reactivate dormant human brain cells, with the hope of finding a cure for Alzheimer's disease. The sharks, however, are not ordinary animals. They have been genetically altered, their brains enlarged to produce more of the protein complex needed for the experiments. The project is under heavy financial pressure, after one of the sharks escapes and attacks a group of teenagers at sea, though the victims are saved at the last minute by shark wrangler Carter Blake, who manages to subdue the creature with tranquilizer darts. The corporate backers demand answers. Russell Franklin, an executive from Chimera Pharmaceuticals, the company funding the operation with over $200 million, is sent to the Aquatica facility to investigate and ensure the experiments are under control. The facility itself was originally a Navy submarine refueling base, later converted into a private research station. Aquatica houses 3 genetically enhanced test sharks, 2 first-generation specimens, and a single, much larger second-generation female. On weekends, the place operates on a skeleton crew, as most staff return to the mainland. The core team includes engineer Tom Scoggins, communications operator Brenda Kearns, marine biologist Janice Higgins, as well as Carter Blake, the shark wrangler with a checkered past. When Russell arrives, tension immediately builds. Carter warns Susan that the sharks are beginning to display abnormal behavior, such as coordinated hunting patterns, something never seen in sharks who are normally solitary predators. Susan brushes off his warnings, threatening that if he undermines the project in front of the executive, she will fire him, knowing his criminal record would prevent him from finding work elsewhere. Carter's earlier capture of the rogue shark demonstrated disturbing signs of intelligence. The animal recognized weapons, avoided capture strategies, and even swam backward, an ability real sharks are physically incapable of. Despite the alarming implications, Susan and Jim are eager to prove the potential of their research. During a demonstration for Russell, they extract a protein complex from the brain tissue of the largest shark. The procedure initially seems successful, but quickly spirals out of control when the sedated shark suddenly awakens and attacks. In the chaos, Jim's arm is bitten off. As Carter and others scramble to save him, Susan insists on releasing the shark back into its pen rather than allowing Carter to kill it, prioritizing the continuation of their experiment over immediate safety. Meanwhile, Brenda calls for an emergency helicopter evacuation. The chopper arrives, but when the stretcher holding Jim is lifted, the cable malfunctions. The stormy weather causes further complications, and Jim is dropped into the open water pen. In a horrifying sequence, the massive Gen 2 female shark seizes Jim while he's still strapped to the gurney and drags both him and the helicopter into the tower. The resulting crash kills Brenda and the helicopter crew, while explosions rip through the station, triggering fires and destroying vital equipment. The disaster worsens when the survivors regroup in the laboratory. Through the reinforced observation window, they witness the shark carrying Jim's body still strapped to the stretcher. The predator deliberately rams the stretcher into the glass repeatedly until the massive pane shatters, unleashing a torrent of seawater that floods the lab and kills Jim instantly. The survivors, Russell, Susan, Carter, Tom, and Janice, are forced to retreat as the station continues flooding. The group formulates a plan to escape via a submersible at the wet entry. On the way, Susan reveals the truth. She and Jim secretly broke ethical protocols by genetically altering the shark's brains to make them larger, since normal shark brains were too small to produce sufficient amounts of the protein. This side effect, however, made the sharks far more intelligent and dangerously strategic. When they arrive at the wet entry pool, their hopes are crushed. The submersible has been destroyed. As the group argues over their dwindling options, Russell attempts to rally them with a motivational speech about unity. But in the middle of his speech, a shark bursts from the water and drags him under, killing him in front of the others. Panic spreads, and the survivors realize the sharks are actively hunting them, driving them through the facility like prey. They attempt to climb the elevator shaft to reach higher levels, but the unstable structure causes the ladder to break during a tremor. Janice loses her grip and plunges into the flooded chamber. Carter dives in after her in a desperate attempt to save her, but he fails, and one of the sharks pulls Janice under, killing her brutally. Elsewhere, in one of the partially flooded kitchens, the cook Sherman Preacher Dudley finds himself trapped with another shark. His pet parrot, a constant companion, is killed by the predator. In a tense sequence, Preacher hides inside an industrial oven, only for the shark to intentionally switch on the gas and attempt to roast him alive. Thinking quickly, Preacher climbs into the upper half of the oven, waits for the shark to break into the lower chamber, and then ignites the gas, causing a fiery explosion that kills the animal. Injured but alive, Preacher makes his way back to join the others. Susan, Carter, and Tom head to the flooded laboratory to try to restore power and drain a stairwell that leads to the surface. Meanwhile, Susan retrieves her research files from her quarters, unwilling to abandon years of work. As Carter and Tom struggle to access the controls, the largest shark ambushes them. It viciously kills Tom, ripping him apart, while also sabotaging the system. Susan, in her section of the facility, faces off with another shark and manages to electrocute it using a power cable. But in the process, she destroys her own research. Now only Carter, Susan, and Preacher remain. They retreat to a decompression chamber, but the flooding leaves them no choice but to attempt a dangerous swim to the surface. During the ascent, Preacher is attacked by the last remaining shark. Though he is badly injured, he manages to stab the shark in the eye with his crucifix, forcing it to release him. With only one genetically enhanced shark left, the massive second-generation female, the survivors realize its true plan. The sharks orchestrated the flooding to break free into the open ocean, where their enhanced intelligence would make them unstoppable predators. Carter devises a plan to kill it with a harpoon rigged with an explosive charge, wired to a battery that can trigger a detonation. As the shark begins to break through the outer fence, Susan sacrifices herself. She slices open her palm to attract the creature's attention and dives into the water, drawing it away from the open sea. Her gambit works, but she is unable to climb out in time and is attacked and killed. Carter dives in to try to save her, but it's too late. In the climax, Carter clings to the dorsal fin of the massive shark as it thrashes toward freedom. Preacher fires the harpoon, but the shot pierces both the shark and Carter's leg. The shark continues pushing against the fence, seconds away from escaping. Thinking fast, Carter yells for Preacher to connect the trailing wire to the battery. Preacher does, sending a surge of electricity into the explosive tip. The harpoon detonates, blowing the shark apart. The blast nearly kills Carter, but he manages to free himself and swim to safety just in time. Exhausted and wounded, he joins Preacher on the collapsing station. As the sun rises, the two battered survivors lie on the wreckage, watching as a worker's boat finally approaches from the horizon.